Welcome, YouTube. This is Detroit's Darkest Times. This your man Slick. Today I'm going to give a shout out to some people I knew on Trumbull in Detroit, Michigan. Alfonso, Maria, Christina, Bo, Carrie, Donovan, Becky, Dave Lodnan, Charlie, Jackie, Wayne, Gladdy, William, Jeffrey, Lee, Bobby, Sean, Daniel, John, Sheila, Chief, Margie, Roy, James, Karen, Becky, Kinley, Tony, Mike, Liz, Jojo, Claudia, Sam, Jay, Mario, Augustine, Christina, Lisa, Mitzi, that's a few of the people that was on Trumbull Avenue as I was coming up. I just wanted to give them a shout out. And they know who they are. So today we're going to start out by saying that if you want to support the channel, the Cash App is $FC313. The PayPal is DDT313. If you want to support the channel, feel free. Also, I'd like y'all to subscribe hit the like and the notification bell. And we got a story today that's happened on Trumbull Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. And this is on Trumbull and Selden. And this is a big apartment building on the corner of Trumbull and Selden. And a lot of things went on in that building. I've sold furniture and things like that to people that lived in that building. And back in them days, a lot of people used to hang out on the front porch of their house or building or, apartment building or whatever. They would just hang out in the front. And, the kids would be out playing on the sidewalk, and then, the grown-ups, they'd be sitting on the porch, shooting the breeze, drinking, smoking, whatever, Some people would be cooking out, things like that. But in this corner building on Trumbull and Selden, it had a basement store, and it was named Rogers Store. And a lady that used to hang out in front there, her name was Norma. And she had ended up having a daughter, ended up getting pregnant and having a daughter. And then also there was another lady that lived there, Marge. And then there was a lady that lived in the building named Ruby. And another lady named Bossy. And these are some of the people that I sold stuff to in that building. Like, furniture and stuff like that, lamps, stuff, As a young guy, that's, me and my friends would do things like that. And Norma, she ended up working across the street on Trumbull and Selden at George's store. And as time passed, she ended up losing her child. And I want to say I believe they said it was due to crib death or something like that. So that was crazy, when I heard about that. And because at that time when I heard about that, that was the first time I ever heard about crib death and stuff like that, But anyways, she worked across the street at George's store. And Roger, he was the owner of the basement store in that apartment building. And he used to do a lot of cookouts and stuff. And then he also enjoyed drinking. So he would have drinks in the back of his store. He would just have like a table with chairs around where people can sit down. And, people used to go visit him, shoot the breeze with him. And I do believe he lived in the back of that store, in an apartment behind the store. you know, because he used to, be there all the time, basically. I mean, he would close the store, but, sometimes you could be walking through and you could still see him inside the store. So, that's what makes me think he had an apartment in behind the store in the basement. But anyways, he was a good guy, and he used to, have drinks with the older people and stuff like that. If they come visit him or whatever, they all sit in the back of the store, and and I don't know how good he did at that store, but a lot of people did go there, and a ton of kids went there because he had a lot of, he sold a lot of penny candy, little toys kids can buy, and all that. So basically, all the kids in the neighborhood went to his store. But I don't know how well he did over there compared to across the street at George's store, but people liked his store, and George's store just had a little more to sell because they had basically like a deli in there and stuff like that, where they could like slice your meat up and stuff if you wanted and stuff like that. And Roger didn't have that. He just had coolers, snacks, candy, toys, stuff like that. And anyways, as years pass, me and my friends started going to his store when we got older to visit him and hang out with him for a little while and stuff like that. And then later I found out that he had been shot and killed. And a dude named Chief had told me about it, and somebody had told him about it. So it was basically just word of mouth. But but the story was that Chief had told me. He said that the story that he heard that years back, a guy tried to rob him, and he went to court, and the guy got sent away. And they said they think it was the same guy because they came back to retaliate, stuff like that. And they actually shot him and killed him inside the store. And, that's the story. And I don't know how they come about that story. Maybe because Roger was friendly with everybody. And, since he had opened that store and everything, everybody that went to his store got along with him, and he got along with everybody. He was a real friendly dude. So I guess that was somebody that knew Roger from way back when, knew the story about the guy going to jail, and maybe they was thinking that was the guy that came back to retaliate. And this is just second-hand information, He did get killed in the store and stuff like that. But as far as, who did it or whatever, not unless they had somebody that, like, eyewitness. And they might have had that too because, like I said, everybody used to hang out in that corner building on the front porch from morning to dark. Sometimes late at night, up to, till they was ready to go in and go to sleep, So they basically just hung out in front of the building for long periods of time, But that was some bad news when I heard that somebody had killed Roger because he was a good dude. And the whole time I was living there and stuff like that, I ain't never known him, to be mean with anybody or not get along with anybody or anything like that. So I don't know what the deal was, but it's crazy how people could be real good and friendly to people and all that, and then somebody can come and take them out, but you know, sometimes people has a bad past, and then later on they begin to be nice and stuff like that, and maybe somebody in his past come back, to haunt him, or who's to say, the guy didn't try to rob him and just you know what I mean, and shot him and then robbed him and then left. I mean, I don't know. This is just secondhand information that I've got. And Chief got it from somebody else too, so that was second information for him too. But he said that was what the story was told to him, and he had told me about it. But everybody liked Roger. He was a good dude. And but as time passed, my godmother had moved into one of our old apartments, and she was living downstairs, and then there was a lady that lived upstairs. And she told me years ago that that lady would always send her kid to the store for her, and she wouldn't go. She'd send her kid to the store. But back in them days, a lot of people sent their kids to the store, because usually the neighborhood people knew who lived in the neighborhood, whether it be the store owner or whatever. So, and back then, you could actually send your kids to get, say you wanted a pack of cigarettes or whatever, you would actually be able to send your kids to the store to get a pack of cigarettes. And, or whatever they was going to get for you. And some parents did that because, for one, they had other kids at home, and I think they just didn't want to take all their kids with them to the store and then come back, so they would like send one kid to the store. But, she told me a wicked story that the lady had told her. And she said that she sent her kid to the store, and then somebody violated her kid when it was at the store, and then it came back, and then they called the police and all that. And so that was kind of crazy. And I thought, then, for one, if you send your kid to the store back in them days, it shouldn't be no real young kid. You know what I mean? At least somebody that's, uh, But I guess this could happen to anybody. To be honest with you, no matter what age you are. But I thought that was crazy when she told me that story. And I told my godmother, I was like, well, I've seen her send her kids to the store all the time like that. And I used to think that they were too young to be to be going to the store. And I was a young boy at the time too. So, I just thought that, and then years later, she told me that story. And, I just felt sorry for the kid, but, and I don't know if I know they had to call the police, make a police report, is what my godmother told me. And I don't know if they got the guy or anything like that, but you know, hopefully they did because you know people like that don't even need to be on the streets. To be honest with you, that's just my opinion. But yeah, that's crazy stuff, And I've heard over the years, I've seen a lot of crazy things. I've heard a lot of crazy things, you know, and it's just amazing that, you know, sometimes you think back on it and you're like, all the stuff that was going on in the city back in them days, a lot of people got lucky and, made it through and stuff like that. And then a lot of people didn't. A lot of people had, you know, like myself, I've had a lot of trauma as far as like, get shot and stabbed and all that. And knocked out and robbed and, I've had them incidents, that's a lot of trauma. And but, all trauma is different though, really. I mean, it's all affects you in different ways, but some of it affects you more than others, stuff like that. And I did have an incident that caused a lot of trauma throughout my life, stuff like that. And I'll talk about that in another video. And but I'm going to save that part for another video. But it was, just some crazy stuff happened with, you know, I'll do that on another video because I have to check into some things before I actually talk about that situation. But that's been traumatized, from that point on till today, But and it's got to do with some high up people. So that's why I said I gotta wait, and I'll do a segment on that, but I'm gonna wait till the right time to do it. And but yeah, that's a lot of a lot of people went through a lot of trauma in Detroit City, and and then there was a whole bunch of people that had it rough, coming up and stuff like that. And then, like I said, a lot of people had it rough, and some people, made it through and it wasn't too bad, stuff like that. And but it just depends because I'm sure everybody has a story regardless of where you're from and where you lived or anything like that. But Detroit City is just another. It's a different boat. Let's just put it that way. And so I'm sure that anybody that grew up in Detroit City got stories for days, but most people don't care to talk about it or discuss it with anybody and stuff like that. But like I said, I started this channel, and this channel is to tell my story as as a kid, growing up in Detroit City. And there's just a lot of things that took place. And what I'm trying to accomplish is I want a lot of subscribers on this channel. Once I get that going and, a lot of likes, every time you listen to a video, hit the like button. And then hit the notification bell. And then every time I post one, it'll notify you, and then you'll know when the next one's up. But if you subscribe, you're gonna probably catch all of them that you need to catch. But if you're not subscribed to the channel, you might just be getting random ones like here and there. You're not getting the whole deal, because there's almost 70 videos. So, and there's just stories after story. But the thing is, I think if you subscribe, you'd be able to see all of it and then, pick the one that you might want to listen to or something like that. But if you're not subscribed to the channel, you're probably just getting like random ones that you can see. So just to let y'all know, I got close to 70 videos, so, and there's a lot of different stories, stuff like that. And there's a few here and there I might touch on something else, just something that's in the air or something like that, or something that I want to talk about. But the main thing is just telling my story. And I would like to get, everybody that's watching, if they're subscribed, it don't cost no money to subscribe. And just hit your like every time you listen to one, and then hit the notification bell. And that'll be supporting the channel, But if you want to donate to the channel, then, I already mentioned the Cash App and the PayPal, stuff like that. And that just supports the channel even more. So, and it's strictly up to you what you want to do. But just these stories, like I said, I'm going to go as far as I can go with it. But if I get enough subscribers, I'll take y'all back to day one, and then we'll put all the stuff that I skipped over on there. And, and like I said, the stories get interesting, but they get real deep and interesting on the second go around. But it's better to just keep up with it right now so you can have an idea of how life was in Detroit City, for myself. And like I said, there's a lot of people got stories, and everybody's got a different story. And I really encourage people to tell their story and put it out there, because the thing is when you tell your story, especially if you've got a lot of trauma and stuff like that, it's going to help you to reveal this stuff, and you're going to see a big difference if you decide to do it. And that's what I just decided, I was going to do a book, and then I said, well, how about I just do it on YouTube first, and then later I'll still do the book. But, and just see how this thing goes, And it's really been helping me out a lot as far as like telling the story and all the things that's been going on and stuff like that. And so it makes a big difference to, And then people who don't know me, that just know me a little bit or whatever, then they can really, you really get to know me by listening to these stories. And if you know me pretty good, you'll probably know some of these stories I talk about. It depends, who's listening. But it was just an interesting experience in Detroit City on Trumbull Avenue. And at the time in question, we had Scripps Park on Grand River. Right across the street, we had a bank. Right next to the bank was a Triple X theater. Right across the street from that was a store called Wrigley's. And then later down the road, they changed it to King Cole. And then you had your public library that was on the backside of Scripps Park. Then across the street from the public library, you had a McDonald's on Grand River. I remember back in the days when they first built that McDonald's, their Big Macs were 50 cents. Now, a Big Mac today is outrageous, really. But, because it's just weird that back then they could sell a Big Mac for 50 cents, but now, they're selling them for, what they're selling them for. And we used to go over there a lot and get Big Macs. We'd get ice cream and then chocolate shakes and stuff like that. But like I said, back then, when they first built it and we started going over there, things were really cheap, because you could hustle up some coins. That wouldn't be a problem to do that. And then on down Grand River, you had a gas station. And right next to the gas station was my ex-girlfriend's parents' house. And they had a nice house, I have to say that. It was the nicest house. It was nicer than, I had another friend that lived down Trumbull Avenue right next to the church in this house that was made like a castle. And his mom was an artist. And they had a real big, nice house, but it wasn't nothing compared to my girlfriend's mom and dad's house, because her dad worked at Mayfield, and he was a big wheel at Mayfield. And so they had a real nice house. Her name was Jackie. And then she had an older sister named Gladys. Then had a brother named Wayne. Had another brother named Terry. And then she had another brother too, but I knew his name, but I forgot. But anyways, they had a nice home, and basically it's because her dad worked for